Hello everyone. Today we have come to start a new chapter, that is morphology of flowering plants. As I have discussed before, that the parts which are being to be dealt in this chapter, that is morphology of flowering plants, is the flower portion. So we will start today our study of morphology of flowering plants with the topic that is called the inflorescence. So far we have studied in our class 10 about flower, isn't it? But inflorescence as such we have not studied. Inflorescence is very simple. What does it mean is that it is the arrangement of flowers on a floral axis. Like there is a particular arrangement of leaves on the stem or the branch of a plant, okay, that which is called as your phyllotaxy, which we have not discussed, but just for your reference I am telling you that if there is a branch or a stem and on that the leaves, there is a specific arrangement of the leaves, that specific arrangement of the leaves is known as your phyllotaxy. Similarly, the vegetative bud or the vegetative shoot rather, when transforms itself into a floral bud instead of a vegetative bud, then the flowering initiates in that shoot. You know, the leaves or the lateral appendages rather transforms themselves into the floral appendages, and that arrangement in the axis of the plant is known as your inflorescence. So in simple words, inflorescence means arrangement of flowers on a floral axis. Now depending upon whether the floral axis ends into a flower or whether the floral axis keeps on growing and the mature flower is towards the base and the most immature flower is at the top, the inflorescence is of two types. Try to understand what I said. If the growth of the floral axis terminates with a flower so that no further flower can form, understood, that is a kind of inflorescence. And another type of inflorescence is what? The growth is not stopped. That means immature flower will keep on happening at the tip, apex portion, and the mature flowers will be at the base. So this type of inflorescence is termed as your racemose and cymose. Now what is this racemose and cymose? I said that the tip is not terminating with a mature flower. That means it continues to grow. The most mature flower is at the base and the least mature, that means the most immature flower, is at the top. Then this type of inflorescence we will call it as your racemose inflorescence. Okay, the best example you can see it in your school, that is a gulmohar plant. When we enter into the school, we have a gulmohar tree. So in that gulmohar tree you will find that the floral axis never terminates with a flower. It keeps on growing, new buds comes, immature buds comes, and at the base is the most mature flower. Okay, so that is the example of your racemose inflorescence. You remember gulmohar. Okay, gulmohar is the example of racemose inflorescence. And cymose inflorescence, just the opposite of racemose inflorescence. That means the inflorescence axis, the floral axis, terminates with the mature flower. That means once the flower has bloomed in the terminal point or the tip of the plant, then no more upward formation of flower will take place. Now the new flower will form from the bottom of this mature flower. So when such kind of inflorescence is there, we call that inflorescence to be the cymose inflorescence. So this type of inflorescence, in which plant can we see? We can see this type of inflorescence in a plant which is called dianthus. Okay, now dianthus is a seasonal flower. It grows during the winter. In clusters, it's a herbaceous plant, but it shows the cymose type of inflorescence. Okay, so there are types of racemose inflorescence, there are types of cymose inflorescence, but it is not discussed in your NCERT, so we are not going with the classification of racemose inflorescence and classification of cymose inflorescence. Our intention is to study what is racemose inflorescence, what is cymose inflorescence. One more thing, in case of racemose inflorescence, the arrangement of the flower is acropetal succession. Acropetal succession means the most immature flower at the top and the most mature flower at the bottom. and the cymose inflorescence is just opposite. That means the basipetal arrangement of flowers. Basipetal means towards the base. Towards the base of the axis, floral axis, is the immature flower, and the tip of the inflorescence axis is having the mature flower. Okay, so I think by this time you got this idea of what is inflorescence and what are the two types of inflorescence clear with the example. In the book, example of racemose and cymose are not given. I gave you an example so that you can correlate with it. You may write it down next to the topics discussed in your book. That is racemose example, write down gulmohar, and cymose example, write down dianthus, Dianthus. Okay, so these are the things. Now the next thing which has been discussed in your book is about flower. Now flower we have read in class 10, and I don't think there is a need to repeat the parts of the flower, but here in class 11 we have to study something new about the flower besides the 4 holes of the flower. Okay, now these are something different which we will be just coming, but just for the basic idea, if we take this structure to be the flower, typical flower, then this is called the thalamus of the flower or the receptacle of the flower. And if a flower is having a stalk, then the stalk of the flower is called the pedicel. Okay, and then the first hole of the flower is called the calyx, and each member of the calyx is called the sepal. Okay, these are generally green in color. The primary function of the calyx is to protect the internal parts of the flower. Internal parts here means basically the androecium and gynoecium. Why? Because they will take part in the process of sexual reproduction. Okay, and also I have to tell you that those flowers in which both male and female part, this is the male part androecium and this center one is the female part gynoecium. So if the male and the female part is present, both the parts are present in a flower, we call that flower to be bisexual flower. And those plants in which either the female part is present or the male part is present, we call them as your unisexual flower. Okay, sometimes in some plants unisexual flowers are born in different branches. That means the plant is having both male flower and female flower in the same plant, but the flower is unisexual. Flower is not bisexual. Which type of plants can we see this kind of things? We can see them in the plants like pumpkin. Okay, cucurbita family, in bitter gourd, in bottle gourd. If you see, then you will find that there are separate male flower and separate female flower. Okay, but they are born on the same plant. Okay, and there are some plants in which male plant is there in which they will be bearing separate male flowers, and there will be female plant in which they will be bearing the female flowers. What is the example? Best example is papaya. Okay, in case of papaya you will find male papaya plant. In that male papaya plant you will find male papaya flowers. So the plant is also separate and the flowers are also separate. But in case of cucurbita, that is pumpkin family plants, the plant is same but flowers are different. That means male flower and female flower are different but born in the same plant. But in case of papaya, plant is also separate, flower is also separate. Okay, and if you see China rose or if you see rose, if you see chili, these are bisexual flowers. That means plants in the same plant, in the same flower, both male and female parts are present. Okay, all right. Now, so this is the first hole, as I said, calyx, and the calyx, each member is called sepals. Now, sometimes it is seen that the calyx are united together to form a cup-like structure or funnel-like structure, as we see in case of your chili. You can see in case of brinjal also. Brinjal, when you bring it from the market, you will find the stalk of the brinjal, and you will find that green color calyx is attached with the brinjal, isn't it? The calyx is not detached very easily. Of course you can detach it, but it is attached, it is persistent with that of the fruit of the brinjal. So we call that type of funnel like structure or united calyx is to be the gamosepalous condition, and when it is attached with the fruit we call it as your persistent calyx. persistent and deciduous. Persistent means which will be remaining with the fruit, that is persistent. And when the calyx will form a special structure, a funnel like structure surrounding the internal parts of the flower, then they will be togetherly called as your gamosepalous condition. And when the calyx are separated, okay, they are not forming any specialized structure, they are called as your polysepalous condition. So gamo means united and poly means separate. Okay, the next hole of the flower, we know that it is petal, it is colorful, it attracts the pollinators, and sometimes at the base of the petals some nectaries are there which attracts the pollinators. Okay, that's fine, that we all know already. But again, like the calyx, the petals also sometimes are united. So if the petals are united, then they are known as your gamopetalous. Okay, they are known as your gamopetalous. And when they are separated, then they are called as your polypetalous. And togetherly they are called as your corolla. Okay, so this is the second hole. And see students, the calyx and the corolla are called the non-essential holes of the flower because they do not take part in the process of sexual reproduction. They don't form the gametes. They just help to protect the two major parts of the flower, that is the androecium and the gynoecium. So sometimes this question comes, what are the non-essential parts of the flower? So non-essential parts of the flower are calyx and corolla because they do not take part in the process of sexual reproduction in case of flowering plants. And essential holes are your gynoecium and androecium. Why they are called essential holes? Because they are producing the ovules and the pollen, which when they will be fertilizing or fusing, they will form the zygote, the seed, and the next generation will develop from them. So that is why they are called the essential holes of the flower. And when a flower is having all these 4 holes in it, then it is called a complete flower. Okay, and when any of the holes is missing, then it is called an incomplete flower. Okay. Now, androecium is a male part of the flower. Androecium is also sometimes united. It is called adelphi. So, when it is united to form a single bunch, it is called as your monadelphous. Okay, monadelphous. Monomial, binomial, trinomial, polynomial, you have read it in mathematics. So, similarly, when all the androecium present in the flower forms a single bunch, then they are known as your monadelphous. Okay, you will get the spelling in your book, so please read the spelling properly. And when they will form 2 bunches, then they will be called as your diadelphous. Okay, like we see in case of pea plant. Okay, in case of pea plant, there are total of 10 androecium in a single flower, and 9 will form a single bunch and 1 is separate. So since this is separate, so these are 2 bunches, so we can call them to be the diadelphous condition. In some flowers you will find many bunches are there of this androecium, then we call it as your polydelphous condition. Example is your citrus fruits, means lemon family fruits. Okay, so these are the various kinds of arrangement of androecium within the flower, and they are either they are united or they are free. Okay, so depending upon that they have been named like this. And gynoecium, a single flower can have more than 1 gynoecium. Okay, so when they are united, the gynoecium are united, they are called as your syncarpous condition. Many gynoecium united together, they may be united throughout, that means ovary, style and stigma of all the gynoecium united together, but the stigma is separated so that separately the pollen can enter into the chambers and fertilization can take place, or they may unitedly form a single stigma by the dissolving of the internal wall or the septum, and this way many pollen grains can fall and they can germinate, and then fertilization can take place in the inside the different compartments of the different ovaries. Okay, it depends. Okay, so again syncarpous and apocarpous. Apocarpous means what? That means here the carpels, carpus word has come from carpel because gynoecium is also known as carpel. So apocarpous means the gynoeciums are separated, they are not united. So having so many carpels inside the flower, but those carpels are not united, they are separated from each other. So we call this condition to be apocarpous condition. Okay, so these are the various some you can say the new terms which you have come across. And of course, if there are something else also, you will be going through it so that you can understand it. Then the next thing which we should be learning is that this sometimes the flowers, the floral members, are in the multiples of some number. That means the sepals are in the multiples of 3, and the petals are also in the multiples of 3. So sometimes they can be in the multiples of 4. That means sepals 4 in number, petals 4 in number. Sometimes it can be in the multiples of 5. That means sepals 5 in number, petals 5 in number. So we depending upon how many members in each whole of the flower, sepals and petals, they have, the flower can be trimerous. Tri means 3, multiple of 3. They can be tetramerous, they can be pentamerous. Okay. And in the bud condition of the flower, that means when the flower is not bloomed, it is in a bud condition. During that time, if we do a section of the bud, and if we see the arrangement of the calyx or the arrangement of the petals with respect to each other, then this study is known as your aestivation. Now, what is aestivation? Arrangement of calyx or the corolla in the bud condition of a flower is known as your aestivation. So depending upon how they are arranged, aestivation is again discussed in your book is of 4 types. Okay, the first aestivation is known as your valvate aestivation. Now, what is this valvate aestivation? Although it is given in your book, you can see from there also when I am teaching, so that you can correlate with it. But here I am just drawing a simplified diagram. So suppose if this is a calyx, this is a calyx, this is a calyx, and this is a calyx. So when the calyx margins are just touching each other, no overlapping is there. So this type of arrangement of calyx or corolla in the bud condition, this type of aestivation is known as your valvate aestivation. Okay, now the next is twisted. Now in case of twisted, what will happen is that there will be overlapping of the margins of the either the calyx or the corolla, but in one direction. That means suppose if this is one member of, or you can say this is one calyx, so this is another calyx, this is another calyx, okay, and this one is another calyx. So you can see here that here each member's only one side is overlapped by that of the other. So this type of aestivation is called as your twisted aestivation. Okay, so the first one is your valvate aestivation, the next one is twisted aestivation, and another one is there which is called as your imbricate aestivation. Now in case of imbricate aestivation, it is a form of twisted aestivation, but there is slight difference. Although it is just written that it is a form of twisted aestivation in your book, but imbricate aestivation is slightly different from the twisted in the sense that one of the member of the calyx or the corolla, which is being discussed in the aestivation, is overlapped on both sides by the next 2 members of the members of the calyx or the corolla. Say for example, if we take this to be the example, you can see, okay, let me draw it in dark. So here you can see that this member, the top one, this one is overlapped. The 2 margins of this top member of the calyx is overlapped by the other 2 floral members. Okay, and there will be another member who will be overlapping from the, okay, this one we can take this to be the example. Yes, let us not remove this one. Okay, this one, you see this member is overlapping from outside. That means it's both the margins is not overlapped by the next members. It is rather superior. It is rather overlapping the other 2 floral members, and this one from both sides is inward, being overlapped by the next 2 members. So this type of aestivation is called as your imbricate. Did you understand? Twisted means only if this is one floral member, this is another floral member, it will be overlapping like this. Okay, but if it is in case of imbricate estivation, then suppose if this is one of the calyx or one of the corolla, then out of all the members, if it is a pentamerous flower, so 5 will be there. So out of all the members, one member will be overlapped both from outside this side direction and from this side direction. So it will be inward. From both the margins it will be overlapped, and another member, only one like this, and another member will be there which will be overlapping the next two members from outside. That means if this is the member, it will be like this, if this is the member, it will be like this, and it will be overlapping from outside. So this is the fundamental difference between that of the twisted and imbricate estivation. Okay, and last one is called as your vexillary, and sometimes it is called quinquential. So vexillary is easy, it is written in your book, you read like that. So vexillary estivation is a special type of estivation. We find this in case of Papilionaceae family flowers. That means you can find them in pea, okay, pea plant. You can find them in especially in the leguminous plants, you will find them. It is having different types of floral members. That means the corolla's members are different. The outer one is the biggest one, it is called the standard petal. Okay, it is called the standard petal. Then the next two is called the wing petal. Okay, so the standard petal is covering let me draw here, then it will be clear for you. So the standard petal will be like this, then there will be two wing petals, okay, and there will be two keel petals. So the keel petals will be like this. So the keel petals will be joined like this. So this will be the arrangement or the estivation which we find in case of your plants like that of pea belonging to Papilionaceae family. So these are the four main types of estivation which has been discussed in your book. That is the arrangement of either the calyx or the corolla in the bud condition. Okay, next let us move on to depending upon the position of the gynoecium, the different types of flowers. Okay, so depending upon the position of the gynoecium, flowers are of three types: hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. Hypogynous flowers means in which the ovary or the gynoecium is superior. Now what do you mean by superior? That means it will be at the top and the other floral members will come from the bottom of the gynoecium. Got it? Try to understand what I am telling. The gynoecium will be placed in the thalamus, because this is the thalamus. So it will be placed in the thalamus in such a manner that the calyx, the corolla, the androecium will all arise from the bottom of the gynoecium. So in such case, we call this flower to be hypogynous flower, and the ovary is called the superior ovary. Okay, hypogynous, hypo means below, below whom? Gynous, gynous means gynoecium. Okay, so below the gynoecium, when the floral members arise in a flower, we call these flowers to be hypogynous flower. Example is chili, example is China rose. Okay, next is perigynous flower. Now perigynous flowers are what? Perigynous flowers means that is your gynoecium, the androecium, the calyx, the corolla, all will be placed in such a manner that they are placed in a similar platform. Okay, and nobody is superior, nobody is inferior. Okay, in the periphery of the gynoecium, that means just in the same level of the gynoecium. We call these type of flowers sometimes to be half superior or half inferior. Okay, perigynous flowers, half superior or half inferior. So this question also can come 1 marks question. Name or not name, rather give an example, or what do you understand by perigynous flower, or what is the arrangement of the various floral members in case of the perigynous flowers. So then you have to say that it is in the periphery of the thalamus, rim of the thalamus with respect to gynoecium, so that all the members, floral members, appears to be in the same level. Okay, so that is called the perigynous flower. And the last one is called epigynous flower. Epi means above, gynous means gynoecium. So above the gynoecium. So here you see one thing, I have drawn the gynoecium deeply inserted inside the thalamus. So it is lower in position, isn't it? And all other members are higher in position. So you can see the calyx, the androecium, the corolla, all are at the higher level compared to that of the gynoecium. That is why it is called as your epigynous. Okay, so these are the three types of flowers depending upon the position of the gynoecium that we have discussed today. Then parts of the flower, just now I have discussed about the calyx, the various terminologies related to calyx. Okay, I forgot to tell you, when we will be reading about the floral formula and all, calyx is represented by capital K, corolla is represented by capital C, androecium is represented by capital A, and gynoecium is represented by capital G. Understood? And when we say a flower to be hypogynous, that means a superior ovary, because here the ovary is top, isn't it? So we represent capital G and below we underline it, okay, because we are giving honor importance, so that is why we are giving an underline, we are highlighting it. Okay, so in the formula we have to write it like this. Perigynous, we will write capital G, and in between the G we will be drawing one line like this. Suppose if you are drawing a G like this, and here you will be drawing one line, okay, in case of perigynous. And epigynous, in that case it is the ovary is inserted, it is inferior, so you have to put a line over the top of the G. So this one will be G underlining it, superior gynoecium. This one is half inferior or half superior, so just in the middle of the G like this, and which is the inferior ovary, we will be writing like this, that is G with the at the top of it. So here perigynous example you can write rose, and here in case of epigynous flower you can write about the cucumber, you can write about the bottle gourd, about the pumpkin. These are the examples of your epigynous flower. And this one I told you rose, and this one you can write chili, brinjal, tomato, China rose. Okay, so many are there in your books, are also examples, you can memorize them. So today only up to this much. Next day we will follow from where we have left today.